Well, hello, and welcome to the PGH Writing Command Center for another podcast episode from God Bless the Keg Publishing, LLC. And I am Paul John Housleben of God Bless the Keg Publishing, LLC. I am the flagship author, chief photographer, music reviewer, music critic, do everything guy here at God Bless the Keg Publishing, LLC, with a little help from my friends, and the friends are here today on this Sunday morning to help me record this and support me despite the heat wave. I mentioned it last podcast, and I'm such a wimp when it comes to the summer. Always was that way. My dear mom says when you were a little boy, if it was winter, you were outside, couldn't find you. You were playing hockey, playing in the snow, doing all stuff, winter stuff. And come the summer, you laid around on the living room floor in front of the fan. We had one of those, what do they call, hassock fans. You know, you could put your feet up on them and you put them in the center of the room and they spun around. And oh my goodness gracious, if you laid on the floor, it was fantastic. Absolutely loved that thing. Let's give it up for the hassock fans. And I grew up without air conditioning. Yeah, wow. Any rate, hey, if you're a first-time tuner-inner, then welcome. If you're a long-time listener or a subscriber, then welcome back. And we're thrilled you're here to join us for this podcast episode. So we've got a little bit of a scheduling snafu here today. We got, I've been promising, and my cousin Jack had a little, how shall we say, he overslept. Let's just tell the truth. He overslept, cousin Jack. So we had to put him on the bum list. We're going to take him off the bum list, the Paulie bum list. But what happened, we had it scheduled to record the podcast, and he's like the New York Jets, keep promising to be win a game. I keep promising Cousin Jack got to be on. Cousin Jack got to be on the podcast. He's going to talk about, I've been saying it wrong. I just realized I was corrected by Cousin Jack and a few other people. It's not UFOs anymore. They're called UAPs, Uniform Alpha Papa. Unidentified aerial phenomena rather than unidentified flying objects. I don't know what the difference is other than the letters. Anyway, Cousin Jack has researched and he's all into the UAPs/UFOs, conspiracy theories, government secrets, and I had it all set up for this past Tuesday. I set it up for, I think it was 3 p.m, and 3 came, no Cousin Jack. 4 o'clock came, no Cousin Jack. So I texted, no text. And then finally he resurrects himself and he's like, I'm sorry, Paulie. I took a nap and I overslept. So we have to reschedule Cousin Jack. We're going to put him on the bum list until he gets here. But anyway, so I've been scrambling with a lot of different subjects and I didn't want to infringe on my game plan. I planned this for the most part like a month out or so. But at any rate, a couple incidents happened this week which were amazing and allow me to formulate the basis of this podcast. So before we get too deep into the meat and potatoes and the gravy, let's get our little Orphan Andy decoder pins out. And we could only wish for Christmas because it would be cool. Well, it would be depending on where you live, but my goodness, this past week, it's too early for a heat wave like this. And in Central Virginia, we knew it was coming. I mentioned it last podcast, and it came, and it arrived like 27 Hades. And Friday was unbelievable. It was, I think the actual temperature was 98, 99. What difference does it make? You know, once you get over 95, it's just disgusting. And the humidity was intense. And in my primary source of income, we operate buildings and such, and all the systems are maxed out, doing the best they can. And people are saying, well, it's 77 in the building. Well, it's 105 outside. It's not a refrigerator. It's just an air conditioner. It's doing the best it can here. So, anyway, so we got through that day, and then yesterday was brutal. So I started to record the podcast yesterday. I said, no, this is too much. It's just too hot because I have to turn the AC off here in the writing command center because it's so clunky and old and loud, and you can hear it over the microphones, even with the noise reduction. So it got stifling. I was like, nah, we ain't doing this. We're going to get up early and record this before it gets too hot. So that's what we're doing right now. But before we get into that, let's get our little Orphan Annie decoder pins out. And this podcast is proudly sponsored by Corporate Facilities Group Incorporated, the leader in technical consulting, facilities maintenance, facilities management, and operations, as well as property maintenance and management services throughout America. And now, CFG Incorporated is proud to announce a new department, a new initiative, headed up by the amazing Mr. Steve McMillan. Let's give it up for old Steve Aruski. We love Steve down there in beautiful Marietta, Georgia. And Steve brings his many years of experience as he manages pre-construction services and estimating for residential development, residential renovations, and light commercial projects for CFG Incorporated. So, before you spend big bucks on a project, let old Steve Aruski check out the contractor scope and price. Make sure your hard-earned money is going in exactly the right place. Don't get snookered out there. I was talking to Jeff, the musical wizard, about schnookering that was going on, and there's a lot of it out there. So let old Steve Aruski check out that contractor scope and price. Check them out on the web at www.corporatefacilitiesgroup1.com. That's www.corporatefacilitiesgroup1.com. And many thanks to Lydia, Steve, Lily, Anna, Summer the dog, and Smokey the kitty cat down there in beautiful Marietta, Georgia, for sponsoring the podcast. And we really appreciate your support. Yes, indeed. And we're very happy to hear Lydia's recovering from her little bit of oral surgery, a lot of bit of oral surgery. And, once more, Lydia, if you need a guy to play goal, just call me up. Don't get involved in these pickup hockey games. It's not worth the dental emergencies. But we're very happy that Lydia's feeling better. So, and I also want to, yesterday, before I did the opening of the podcast, and then shut it down because of the heat. We were shut down because of excessive heat inside. And writing command center's old, but I got a phone call from the great Callie Rose of God Bless the Keg Publishing, LLC. And Callie's on a sabbatical now for a very long time. And we love Callie. She's just a fantastic spirit. And I miss working with her all the time. But she had a little baby girl, Sky Aruski. Sky, beautiful little girl. Oh, my goodness, beautiful. Callie, very beautiful woman, too. So, and Callie put Sky on the phone to talk to Uncle Paulie, and she says to me, well, Sky can't talk. She talks baby stuff. But Callie says, hey, Paulie, would you play Happy Birthday on your kazoo for Sky? I said, oh, yeah, sure. So I scrambled to the cupboard and got the finely tuned instrument and played Sky Aruski Happy Birthday because it's her 1 year birthday yesterday. 1 year old already. Wow. Fantastic. So happy birthday to Sky. And that's fantastic stuff. So I got the and I said to Callie, I said, I'm gonna play another happy birthday for Sky Aruski on the podcast. So here's the finely tuned instrument. Happy birthday, Sky. Love it. Birthday, Sky, and we hope you had an amazing day there. Thank you so much. And I do miss one of the greatest quotes I ever had with working with Callie, and Callie wrote a lot. We did blogs together, and she helped me with beta reads and did a lot of photography. She trained under me with photography. She's an amazing photographer. Oh my goodness gracious. She did a West Coast photo shoot, was fabulous. And she's no longer a junior photographer. She's full-fledged senior photographer now, and just a really skilled person with a great approach to the subject. And she did a lot of modeling for God Bless the Keg Publishing, beautiful gal. And we just had a blast working together for all these years. And we worked together at our primary source of income too. And but Callie beats her own drum. And she's always late too, which drives Paulie crazy. And she's I always say there's Rocky Mountain time, East Coast time, there's UK time, there's Maritime Province time, and there's Cali Rose time. But at any rate, we were working together one day, and she's very stubborn, and she insisted on doing it her way. And I was like, no, we're going to do it this. And I said, I don't know if you added 10 years to my life or you took 10 years off of my life. And because she's sharp as a tack, she come back and she said, well, Paulie, I guess in 10 years we're going to find out. But fantastic stuff. And once more, happy birthday. So I have an announcement here. I want to perpetuate one from last podcast because it is a special organization in our family. So I want to mention, and if you do have any comments, suggestions, charity events, goodwill functions, something you want Paulie to promote, not-for-profit on the podcast, please send it ahead to godblessthekegpublishing@gmail.com. godblessthekegpublishing@gmail.com. If you want to email us here, you want to comment, you want to make a suggestion for the rated series, I do have 2 of those that came in. Have not been able to even check that out because it was a busy week. But if you have something, that's the email address. So progressive supranuclear palsy, PSP, is a rare progressive neurological disorder affecting movement, balance, vision, and cognitive function. It is caused by a buildup of tau protein in the brain and is often initially mistaken for Parkinson's disease. But it progresses more quickly and typically does not respond to Parkinson's medications. PSP is very rare, affecting 6 to 10 individuals per 100,000, with about 30,000 cases alone in the United States. These numbers are likely underestimates due to frequent misdiagnosis of Parkinson's disease or frontotemporal dementia. Please, we need your support. www.pspapasierrapapa.org. Check out that website. Check this disease and how terrible it is. And it is sort of getting increased in numbers a little bit. And this affected my family directly. And if you can read up about PSP and support it with a donation, I certainly appreciate it. Thank you so much. So as I mentioned, it was a busy week. It was a hot week, and Paulie moaned and groaned about the heat and all this stuff going on. I had a couple overnight projects where I had to help some people out on an overnight project. Ended up going 48 hours with 2 hours sleep. I was a grumpy Paulie. It was cousin Jack snafu. And then we had some bright spots too. And I'm continually amazed and blessed by all these things that happen. And you go through life, and sometimes it's just, you consider it humdrum and the daily routine, but sometimes the daily routine is just amazing. And there's nothing wrong with boring. The old man used to say, there's nothing wrong with boring. And sometimes you just don't need adventures. And this past week was a lot of adventures, and I was running on empty with no sleep. And I was happy when the humdrum came. I was happy for the silence, for the quiet. It really, when it was all that noise around me, I realized how blessed I am when it's quiet and normal. But I started a young person, a young lady, young woman, a student for some summer helping pinch hit on some of the duties we have at the primary source of income. And she's a lovely young woman, very smart. I saw her grades, her report card she submitted to help with her identification as a student. very young gal, and straight A's. And she was talking about, I was training her, and she was talking about school and all the things that she learns and what school's like nowadays. And for an old guy like me, I love this because I was learning, you see, and I was learning about things that I didn't know. It's been a long time since I went to school. And I was asking her about subjects that she enjoyed and subjects that she didn't enjoy. And she said she liked history and she studied a lot of history. And apparently she went to a private school up until last year, and then she transitioned over to public schools. I couldn't resist, and based upon some of my other podcasts and the wisdom of Pete the bartender, I said where Pete said people don't know history, I gave her a little quizzer-rooski there, and she did very well. She said she knew a lot about World War II. They studied World War II. And so I said, okay, well, name some Allied countries and name some Axis countries. And she did. She named, she got all the Axis, all the Axis side. And she named about, I guess, 5 or 6 on the Allied side. I was very impressed. She got, I think, 9 out of the 13 original colonies. And she named 3 signers to the Declaration of Independence, and she knew who wrote the Declaration of Independence. So it was very good, and I really enjoyed. It might be maybe a humdrum conversation or a daily routine conversation, but as we're working and I'm training her on these boring policies and procedures and what to do at her job, we just chatted. And I love giving young people a chance. And sometimes it comes back to burn me. Very often it does. But I still endeavor to help young people because a very long time ago, 2 older guys gave Paulie a chance. And I didn't bring much to the table when I was 15, 16 years old. I guess I was 15. And I brought very little in the way of skills. But what I brought was an open mind and a willingness to make something out of myself. And we didn't grow up with a lot of money. We grew up in a hard old neighborhood in northern New Jersey. Parents did the best they could. And my old man was a machinist. My mom, with her English heritage and everything, was a homemaker, the hardest job of all, right? And the old man worked 2, 3 jobs trying to make a go of it. But when it came my time to enter the workforce, I was like, okay, I know that if I go to tech school or college or whatever later on in my life, it's going to be on my own nickel. But I got to make it now. I got to make something of myself. And I learned to trade and went to a vocational school, vocational program. And I chose electricity and electronics. And I got myself a job interview and I made the most of it. And someone gave a young kid with very long hair a break. And they asked me to tie my hair up behind my head so it wouldn't fall down into the electronics and the electricity. So I always try to help young people out. And then this young gal Googled Paulie. And she Googled me, and she was playing on her phone there at some downtime. And she said, my goodness gracious, I had no idea you were famous. And I said, I'm not famous. I'm not famous. I'm just a guy who likes to do a lot of different things. And she's reading and looking. She said, my gosh, what haven't you done? I said, well, yeah, I've done quite a few things. And it comes from Callie Rose. You lived 1,000 lives, Paulie, and she inspired me. Callie Rose inspired me to write the book Experiences. So I got talking a little bit more, and this young gal asked me about writing, and she said, I love to write. I said, oh, you do? Okay. Well, now the conversation takes in a different direction. And I said, well, what do you like to write about? And she said, oh, I don't know, just something that pops in my head. And I said, well, that's awesome. That's excellent. And she said, what do you write about? I see here you got Detective Odell, and you got the Harry and Paul adventures, and you have some fantasy, the Tales of the Quiet Stranger and the Black Hat. And she's reading like my books off of the internet search. And I said, well, you know, exactly what you just said. I just write what pops in my head. I don't stick to a genre. I'm just like with my music. You know, I'll listen to folk, I'll listen to indie rock, I'll listen to classic rock, prog rock, I'll even listen to classical music. And the only thing I don't listen to is that country stuff. But anyway, you know, I don't stick to one genre. And I think that helps when people are like saying things are humdrum or boring. I'm never that way because I always shift gears. I like baseball. I like my ice hockey. I watch my football, soccer, American football, all these things. And life's what you make it. It's the tapestry that you weave. And you can weave a tapestry with one color or 200 colors, whatever you want. Every color has a shade, right? And so I said to the young gal, I said, well, you know, write something, write something. And she said, well, you know, I don't know. What should I said, well, we had some adventures today. So I gave her some homework. And she come back, she just pinch hit. So I think I'll see her this upcoming week for some pinch hitting shifts. And I said, you know, I want you to write me something. I don't care, a couple paragraphs, the opening to a story, and let's see if we can, you know, tag team it, and I'll write with you. And let's come up with a subject. So I'm really excited to see what happens. Then after that, I got back to the writing command center and I go through my emails and go through my stuff and try to catch up a little bit. And as I mentioned, I was behind my time, not only with the schedule change, but working those overnights. And I received this email from a reader. And I opened up the email and it had an attachment. It had a document. And this reader, and I'm not going to mention her name because I keep that confidential. She didn't ask me to release it. And I thank you so much for sending me this fantastic document. And she's an avid reader of the books. And I thanked her for that. And the attachment was her 40 favorite characters from the Adventures of Harry and Paul. And she listed them in the order of her preference, her favorite, number 1, all the way down to number 40. And she listed the character's name, the full name, their role / occupation, their role in the stories, and what stories and books, short stories or books they appeared in. If they appeared in multiple Adventures of Harry and Paul, she put the Adventures of Harry and Paul. If they only appeared in 1 or 2 books, she itemized that out. And I was just floored. And I was so humble. Like I said, years ago, someone gave me a chance and I made something of it. And I did the best I could. And then I started writing as a young man and I put it on the shelf. And that's a well-worn story. And I picked it back up. We resurrected the time bomb in the cupboard and other Adventures of Harry and Paul, and we published it as a spoof, and it took off. And here I am, and that was 2010. That was the year 2010. And I think by the time we actually put the time bomb out, and I always remember I printed 100 copies of it and I gave it out to friends, and then I put it on the big internet machine. And I couldn't believe that we sold all 100 copies of this ridiculous book that I thought was just a spoof. I mean, I have all these crazy errors in there. I misnamed people on purpose. It was fun. It was meant for family and friends and people who knew Harry and Paul in the old neighborhood. I never imagined it to become something other than that. Not only folks, you know, from Patterson and Haledon and grew up in the old hood who knew us and knew my family, knew Harry's family, Jeff, all the hood rats, but it connected with other people too. And people ask me, Paulie, why do you dwell on the past and dwell in nostalgia and write in nostalgia? I think it's because I don't want to forget those times. And I don't want other people to forget those good times. I think that's why I enjoy nostalgia more than I enjoy writing about anything else, because it brings you back to those happier moments. And they're not all happy, but they're amazing. And I don't want to forget those times. I don't want to forget all those 40 characters in the Adventures of Harry and Paul. So I want to share some of that and then tell a Harry story, a Harry and Paul story on one of the characters that I think is missing from this list. that I agree with all this. It's fantastic. I might change the order up a little bit, but this reader, to take that time, it's just so humbling and so wonderful. And I thank you so much. We're going to send you out some God Bless the Cake Publishing LLC merchandise, a hat, T-shirt, whatever, and maybe a coffee mug. But and definitely a QSL card from the podcast. But to take the time to do that, and it's just amazing, and it really just warms my heart so much. So I'd like to get into this list here, and I have to get it in order. It's quite a few pages here. Yes, yeah. I have to get it in order. Oh, here we go. Okay, so it's the 40 favorite characters from the Adventures of Harry and Paul, and it's got the number in order, the character, role, occupation, book, stories. So number 1 is Harry M. Redmond Jr. That's a great Harry. And I shared this with Harry, and he got such a kick out of it. I don't think he liked his role as well. He loved that he's a star. You see, the reader listed either star or co-star. So he's a star, and his occupation is welder, which is true. And then the description, lovable, gregarious blowhard. Hockey player, womanizer, entrepreneur, and millionaire. And that's very true. It's not true in real life, poor Harry, but it is true in the books. He invents this ridiculous invention. A lot of Harry and Paul stuff is just offbeat humor. And I was inspired by that ridiculous easy button thing that Office they used to have where you push the button. It was a piece of plastic, and they charge you like $8. So Harry invented the annoyometer. It's a plastic device that hung on a wall, and it had a dial from 0 to 100. And when someone was annoying you and bothering you, like at work, you wrote their name on a piece of paper and you stuck it on the annoyometer, and then you flipped up the dial to the level that they're annoying you. And it became this big hit thing that Harry made all this money on. Ridiculous, but so much fun. And number 2 on the list is Paul John Henson. My alter ego, I guess. Star, first-person narrator of all the stories, electrician, professional ice hockey goalie. Later on in life becomes a Lutheran pastor and eventually a bishop. Number 3 is the old man. Of course, the old man has to be in the top 5, right? Star, Paul John Henson's father, family and old neighborhood leader, machinist. The Adventures of Harry and Paul. I'm not going to go through every one, but I want to point out at number 8 shows up the great Sal Zucchini. The great Sal Zucchini. And this reader, Sal's a star. He appears in many of the Adventures of Harry and Paul. And occupation is mobster. But the funny thing about Sal Zucchini is it's never actually stated that Sal is actually involved in mobster type stuff. It's maybe implied, but it's never really established. It's kind of a mystery. And he operates retail stores and a pickle factory in Paterson, New Jersey. And that's very true. He owns he's a neighborhood leader, friend and protector of Harry and Paul, and a friend and protector of the old neighborhood. He really is. And in Time Bomb in the Cupboard, in the story Harry's Resort, it involves an above-ground swimming pool. I'm not going to give away too many spoilers. But Sal Zucchini has a store in Riverside section of Paterson where he sells swimming pools and tools. In the off season, he just sells tools. But when they go to Harry and the gang and Harry and Redmond Sr. and the old man and Ronzo and Harry and Paul and Jeff and everybody goes down to pick up the swimming pool that they buy from Sal Zucchini's store. And the swimming pool, when they have to pick it up, is around the corner at a pickle factory. That's where they pick up the swimming pool. So I doubt there was much pickling going on in that factory. I think it was, how shall we say, maybe a front? Yes! Anyway, Sal Zucchini appears, and he's an awesome character. I think Sal is maybe one of my favorites, absolutely. And he's number 8 on the list, and I think that's pretty accurate. But in the dance, in the summer collection, Sal comes to the rescue of Harry and Paul when their car breaks down, and these con artist mechanics are trying to hoodwink Harry and Paul into fixing the car for $1 million. And Sal Zucchini comes and convinces the mechanics to change their mind with a little neighborhood leverage. And folks say I don't talk enough about the book, so I'm really just so happy to be doing this and so thrilled. And then and number 9 is Pussface the cat. The famous Pussface the cat. He's a star of the neighborhood alley cat, Tomcat. He's adopted by the Hensons, and Pussface loves to drink beer. And he appears in the Adventures of Harry and Paul, many of them. Then there's Coco Redmond. He's a star. That's Harry M. Redmond Jr.'s dog, based upon the actual Coco that we all grew up with, the world's smartest dog. And it goes on and on and on. We've got Fritzy the parakeet. We've got Ronzo, Mr. Porter. We got Bishop Warner and Beck Von Houten. We got the famous Cliffy McWhiffy, who's a co-star. That's the neighborhood drunkard and busybody that wanders around trying to con people and sell them stuff. He appears in many of the Harry and Paul adventures. He just comes wandering along at the worst time. At number 21 is one of my favorites from The Night Always Comes. It's the Grim Reaper and his toothless assistant. So the reader grouped them both together. They're co-stars. Sadistic Jersey Shore boardwalk amusement park ride operators on the amusement park ride The Zipper. And this is probably one of my favorite humorous chapters I ever wrote. And it's about when Harry and Paul take these gals down to the Jersey Shore, to Seashore Heights, which is, of course, a play on Seaside Heights. And they take them on a date down to the shore. Harry doesn't go on the amusement park rides because he's got his false choppers from playing hockey, and he doesn't glue them in, and he lost them one time on a Ferris wheel, which is absolutely a true story. Harry looked down. We were at a fair, a carnival fair, and he looked down, and his choppers fell out, and they fell all. We watched him go all the way down the Ferris wheel. We were sort of at the top, and this gal, we were double dating, and she didn't realize he had false choppers. He's like, yeah, I'm a hockey player. Of course I got false choppers. And the choppers landed down at the bottom of the Ferris wheel. So when the ride ended, we told the guy operating the ride if he could shut it off, and we all crawled around. This is true. We all crawled around on the ground underneath the Ferris wheel, and we found Harry's choppers, and they were fine. They didn't even break. And Harry, this is a true. I'm not kidding you. And he rinsed them off with water and popped them back in his mouth. So anyway, he never would go on rides after that. So this is based upon taking some gals down the shore, and it's not the Zipper. It was called the Flipper. It was one of the most sadistic, evil amusement park rides known to mankind. It spun around on this arm and flipped you in these cages, made you sick. It was just brutal. I think there were, this is serious, actual deaths on the Flipper, and they banned it. So we have the Zipper, and I wrote the chapter is The Zipper Strikes Back. And Harry refuses to go on the ride, so he makes Paul take his date, Rose, and Paul's date, Binky, and they go on the Flipper. The Zipper, I'm sorry. And the Grim Reaper and his toothless assistant, they're full of tattoos that are typical carny type amusement park guys, right? And the Grim Reaper thinks that Paul wants to stay on the ride extra long because he's on this ride with these pretty girls. And he leaves them on the ride forever, and their heads are scrambled. It is, I have to say, it is a hysterical chapter. And Harry wanders off because he made the excuse about his choppers, but he actually went down to the water slide because the gals would lose their bathing suits as they came down the slide, and Harry would stand at the bottom of the water slide and watch the gals trying to put their bathing suits back on with a bunch of other men. That's actually true too. Oh my gosh, this stuff is so funny. 22 is Senator William T. Hobnobber. He's a blowhard, egotistical, big mouth New Jersey politician. Binky is Paul's girlfriend, eventually becomes his wife. And that's Binky's father, and he becomes the father-in-law of Paul John Henson. He's an amazing character. He continually berates Paul throughout all the books, every interaction. But he admires Paul, but he's a big mouth politician. Then there's a wonderful, this happened to be Lydia's favorite character. She mentions this all the time. The night always comes. He's a carny, boardwalk carnival game barker. And he's a con artist, game barker on the Jersey Shore. And he's at the hammer game. You know, that where you take the big hammer and you smash it on the thing and the bell goes up and you win a prize. But Harry knew the secret of the game. And it's, they want you to swing the hammer really, really hard because you don't strike the hammer exactly flat on the little platform that makes the bell go up. And Harry simply takes the mallet thing, squares it up perfectly, and just drops it perfectly flat on the little platform. And the bell goes right up and he wins the prizes. So the con artist, he's got a terrible New Jersey accent, and it's a great interaction. So I like that character too. I want to point out the Nittarelli family. I can't even say it, and I wrote it. It was shortened to the Knick-Knack Kids. They're co-stars. They're neighbors of the Redmonds in the old neighborhood, a large Italian-American family with an unknown number of kids. The Knick-Knack Kids are wild, unsupervised kids that cause chaos and destruction in the old neighborhood. That's perfect. The Knick-Knack Kids were absolutely exactly like that. I think there were 12 children in the family, and they just ran all over the neighborhood, destroying stuff. Then we have James T. O'Malley, the hockey goon. We got Rabbi Goldberg, who's a friend of the bishop. We've got Irish Mary Dunford, who's an on and off girlfriend of Harry. She's always, how shall we say, a little tipsy. We got Dr. Salami. Dr. Salami is the old neighborhood family doctor, a nemesis of the old man because he always charges too much. And Paul and Harry are always at Dr. Salami getting stitched up from street hockey games. Oh, this is fantastic stuff. At 33, we have Mrs. Whipley, who appears in the Miracle Tree and the Summer Collection, a very popular story called The Old Chair. And she's listed as a co-star. She's very wealthy, very religious, but an eccentric parishioner of Reunion Lutheran Church, where Pastor Henson eventually becomes the pastor. She always sees aliens, angels, and spaceships, and is a believer in conspiracy theories. I think Cousin Jack should get with Mrs. Whitley. And then we have the head henchman. I love the head henchman. He's a co-star. He's the lead henchman and head of the forward watch for Sal Zucchini. So whenever you go and meet Sal, like you go down the store, the henchmen are always like patrolling the outside of the store, and all these guys in black suits with dark sunglasses. And you walk in the store and the head henchman like stands guard at the front door. And he talks in a fake, like, Italian accent, American accent. And then when he realizes it's Harry and Paul, he talks like a regular New Jersey guy. And you never know his name. He never mentions his name. And when Harry and Paul ask him what his name is, he's a real giant guy with a black suit, always wears his glasses. He never answers the question of what his name is. So... At the head henchman, number 34. This is amazing. And this gal told me there's about 120 characters in major and minor in the Adventures of Harry and Paul. And I just amazed at this work. Then there's Joe Hinky-Doo Jr. Joe Hinky-Doo Sr. and Jr. co-stars. Joe Hinky-Doo is a junior, small-time petty criminal in the old neighborhood, a neighbor of the Redmonds. Joe Hinky-Doo Sr. operates an ice cream truck that sells questionable products. Both of them are always in and out of jail, and that's very true. An obscure character is the Smith brothers. They're co-stars. Country Bumpkin Brothers. And I think there's 5 of them. And they all have about the same name. It's like Bobby Ray, Timmy Ray, Jimmy Ray, that kind of thing. And they save Harry and Paul with their tractors at a high school dance. And that's in that summer collection, The Dance. And how this reader came up with this is just amazing. But I love it. The Smith brothers. And what happens is Harry and Paul, of course, Harry's dating some other big shot, the star of the football team, the guy, and they get invited to this high school dance way out in Sussex County, New Jersey. And they have all these mishaps and adventures to get to the dance. And Paul's date is a gal that he met actually in The Time Bomb in the Cupboard, Debbie Boatwright. And then Harry's date is Emma Walkenfuss. And she's the star center for the women's basketball team. She's like 6'8". Anyway, Emma is a beautiful girl, and the big meathead guy gets mad at Harry and Paul, of course, and chases them out into the parking lot, and they get in their car, and the Smith brothers are having a tractor pull. And they block the bad guys from getting to Harry and Paul. So I don't know how she came up with that. So I agree with every character on the list, except there's one character who I absolutely loved, and I would put her on this list. I don't know who I would drop, or maybe I'd just make her 41, right? I'll make her 41. And I believe her first name is Irene, and I'm doing this from memory, but it's Miss Goldblatt. Miss Goldblatt. And in Geyer Street Gardens, Harry and Paul are hustling. They're trying to make side money. And Geyer Street Gardens is my hockey novel. And it's very loosely based upon us growing up and starting to play street hockey and eventually ice hockey and all the things we did with a sport that's very unusual to play in neighborhoods like we grew up in. And Miss Goldblatt appears in Geyer Street Gardens in a famous chapter. Now, once more, this is based upon an actual event. I'm going to tell you this is absolutely nonfiction. And we worked in a little side business. I bought this old van. I actually bought it off of a friend of my brother-in-law, Tony, an old blue 40 Econoline van, like 1973, 74, something like that. Maybe 71. I think it was a 71 40 Econoline with a 302 V8 in it that the valve heads were shot. The valves were shot. And of course, being backyard mechanics, the old man and I pulled the head and we got it machined and put it back on. And that was our work truck. And it was actually our hockey truck, too, because we would throw all kinds of hockey equipment in there. We would go to games. And we called the truck Joe, Old Joe. And Joe would take us on side jobs. We'd move furniture. We'd do anything we could to make a few extra bucks. And we typically, I think I told the story of moving Cricket's couch. One of the most famous Harry and Paul adventures. But we hooked up with this guy named Ken Barrett, and he was owned an appliance store. And Harry, he was a member of the chronic mispronunciation guys in New Jersey. And he could never get, he always called Harry Barry. He couldn't get Harry's name right. And he ran this appliance store. And Harry would spoof him back and call him, instead of Ken Barrett, he would call him Ben Carrot. And the guy wouldn't even realize that Harry's mispronouncing his name. So we got this job to deliver this 26 cubic inch side-by-side refrigerator on a Saturday afternoon to the east side of Paterson. Now, the east side of Paterson had a lot of beautiful, fancy homes. It was quite affluent. The mill sections of Paterson were old and run down, but very often the wealthy factory owners all lived and grew up on the east side of Paterson. They built these beautiful homes, these big mansions. So there was a lot of money on the east side of Paterson. So when we got the job, even though it was a massively heavy, gigantic refrigerator, we're like, oh, we could get a good tip here. And Ken Barrett says to us, this is a very good customer. You have to take care. Her family has been customers of my store for years and years, the Goldblatts. and Miss Goldblatt is going to be home. She's a little eccentric, but she's really nice. so we get the giant refrigerator in Old Joe. We tool on over to the east side of Patterson, East something street, East 26, whatever. And it's a beautiful mansion house, but it's old, probably around the turn of the century. So the doorways are tight. This stuff is old construction. And we pull around the back, and it had a beautiful front lawn. And I remember it had this black iron fence went all around the property, and it had 2 floors, 3 floors, and a big attic with the like pillars coming up the spirals, and just beautiful construction, beautiful porch. So we pull around the back, and it had like a circular driveway, and the back door's back there. And I said to Harry, I'm going to check it out. Let's see. This back door looks a little wider, but I don't know. We might have to check the front door. So we go in and knock on the door, and this beautiful middle-aged woman, I don't know, we're kids, we're 20, 25 years old, 21 years old, whatever. She was probably around 40. Beautiful, absolutely stunning woman opens the door like a movie star. And I'll get to that part. And she's like, hiya, big boy. And everything out of her mouth was like an innuendo. And immediately Harry melts. He melts like an ice cream cone on a summer's day. He's gone. Harry's done. He's just like weak at his knees over this beautiful woman who answered the door. And everything out of her mouth had some kind of like side innuendo. So I said, well, we have your refrigerator, and we got to get the old one out. And she's like, well, come on in, big boys, you handsome, strong, muscular guys. And Harry's just wobbling all over the place. And the back door was wide, but it went into a set, like a foyer, and then it had a set of stairs, went straight up into the kitchen. Very narrow, very tight, but we could probably make the turn. So we looked at the front door, and that was impossible. There was stairway, it was narrow, it was long hallway that was really tight, full of antique furniture and beautiful paintings on the wall. He's like, we ain't going this way, Harry. Let's take our chance with the back door. So first we got to get the old one out. And we had to help Miss Goldblatt get everything out of the refrigerator. And she's wearing this short skirtsky and this tight, low-cut top. And she's getting this food out of the refrigerator and all this stuff and putting it in the sink and the boxes and bending over. And poor Harry's shot. He's useless. Harry, and he's a big, strong guy. Harry, big, strong. He just couldn't focus on anything but her perfume, her hair, her beauty, and everything out of her mouth was some kind of innuendo. Well, it turns out Miss Goldblatt is a star, like not a big star, but she's on Broadway. She's on Broadway. And she never stops acting her part as the beautiful, like flirty woman. She's acting all the time. And we realize that Miss Goldblatt she's telling us she's on Broadway and she's a star and she's just always acting. So we somehow managed to get the old refrigerator out. We took all the doors off the refrigerator. We could bang it up. We didn't care because it's coming out and being junked anyway. But now the tricky part comes, because that was a big refrigerator coming out, but the one going in is even bigger. So we take the door off. We take the door off on the exterior, the interior door, and we take the banister off the stairs. We're covered in sweat, and Miss Goldblatt's at the top of the stairs there, yapping away to Harry with her short skirtsky on, and she's like, "Oh, I'm getting so hot. It's so hot, and oh my gosh, I might have to, take my blouse off and put my bikini on or something." And Harry's just done. He is just done, and he can't take it anymore. And Harry's on the top, wobbling and just getting himself all kinds of discombobulated. I'm like, Harry, focus, man, focus. We got this 400-pound refrigerator we're trying, and we got the straps, we got the carrier straps, and I'm on the bottom. And we make the turn, and we're going up the stairs into the kitchen. And Miss Goldblatt's at the top of the stairs, yapping away at Harry. And she says, Harry, I'm single here in this big old house, and my parents, they mostly split time in Florida. Nobody's here. And it's so lonely, and I'm so by myself. And Harry's just falling apart. I'm like, Harry, focus. Focus, Harry, focus. I mean, I'm underneath this thing. And she says, what else can you do, big boy? She said, because I'd love you to come over and fix some stuff around my house. I have all these things that need repair. She said, my shower head doesn't work. And Harry's go, oh, Paulie and I, we fix electric, we do plumbing, we do this, we do that. And she says, well, maybe you can come over and check my plumbing out. And that was it. Harry lost his grip. And the refrigerator slid down, and I just ducked out of the way, or it was squished me, and it came boom, 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 boom down the stairs, and it went right through the wall, the hallway wall, the sheetrock at the bottom of the stairs, and impaled itself into the wall. And I'm laying, it knocked me right out the door, and I'm laying on the back steps. I escaped getting crushed, and I look, and Harry and Miss Goldblatt are looking around at me, and Harry turns around and he says, don't worry, Miss Goldblatt, we also fix sheetrock and walls. And that's a true story, and that is in Geyer Street Gardens, delivering this unbelievably big refrigerator. And to Miss Irene, I think it's Irene Goldblatt on the east side of Patterson. And she meant no harm. She was real. We did go over there, but very, very much supervised, by the way. We never went alone. And we fixed a lot of stuff for Miss Goldblatt over the years, handyman stuff. And she was very nice. She didn't mean any harm. Like I said, she was always acting, and she used to give us great cash tips and everything. And around the Jewish holidays and around Christmas time, she would give you extra stuff and food. And she was really nice. They eventually sold that house, but we did a lot of work there over the years. But that's a true story, delivering the refrigerator. So I would put 41, the great Miss Goldblatt, as a character, the woman who was a Broadway star who just always acted her part. And and that's based upon the actual Miss Goldblatt. But I don't think her name was Goldblatt. I don't remember, but it's fantastic stuff. So yeah, so thank you so much, readers, for this, and allowing me to deep dive into the adventures of Harry and Paul, and the infancy of my writing. And I had no idea I created so many characters, and I'm so blessed, and I'm anxious to meet with the young gal and see what her homework assignment came up with, and maybe we can share that on a podcast, and we're going to write a little creative writing together. So just fantastic stuff, and I really enjoyed this. I have to do this more. I do need to have to talk about my books, because it's very, very fun, makes me happy. So I want to share this because I think it kind of summarizes the adventures of Harry and Paul for me. And I think back on writing all these stories. The winter collection has a Harry and Paul story. I bought Harry and Paul and Irish Mary Dunford. I brought Irish Mary Dunford back, and she made that list. And Muggsy Mugford, he's a Irish guy, Muggsy, and that's in the winter collection. It was really fun to revisit Harry and Paul. But in the epilogue to The Time Bomb in the Cupboard, I think it summarizes the adventures of Harry and Paul. And I wrote, if you take the time in your life to sit and think about all you have done, where you have been, whom you knew, and where it is all going, then you will be amazed at your own adventures. You see, I believe that simple adventures in life are the best ones to experience. The quiet times, the funny times, the adventurous times, the wonderful people you meet or speak with over the years of your life all contribute to make you the person whom you actually are. Life is not always going to be funny or easy. In fact, the majority of the time it will not be. However, the adventures of your own life can be just the same as the adventures of Harry and Paul. You can change the names, fill in your own names in place of Harry and Paul, maybe change the settings or the time, but everyone can experience the same things, such as simple joy, hope, and life to the fullest. You just need to look around with open eyes and a joyful heart. The best part is that you do not have to spend a bank account full of money to do it. I make myself a promise every day, always to remember and thank in my heart all the people who have added joy, hope, and happiness to my life. It makes each day better. It really does. I also know that in the world of Harry and Paul, There will be another adventure right around the corner. There always will be. You see, Harry and Paul adventures never really end. The years may pass, but they go on forever. As long as there are memories, dreams to dream, fun-loving people who enjoy life and care for one another in special ways, stories to tell, roads to travel, music to hear, dances to dance, and love to give. They go on and on until the end of all time. Hey, please be kind, be very gentle, be very tolerant. Remember, kindness is for free. Spread it around as much as you can. It can only make this world a better place. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this little deep dive into Harry and Paul and some of my own meanderings. And yes, we got Cousin Jack coming on the podcast. We do. We really do. Let me get the friends out of here. Let me turn up the 72 fans I have here in the PJH Writing Command Center and try to cool it down. And hey, we will see you next time. Thank you so much for tuning in. And after all, what do I know? I'm just a guy from Paterson, New Jersey. Bye-bye for now.